Camera problems. My cameraman, you know. And
you got to fire him.
Between the makeup artist and the cameraman, you know, it's hard to get good help around here. So if I look here, right?
Yep.
Is that straight? Or here?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah, always drift. All right. Yep. All right, I'm ready. Let's do it. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Welcome to this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive. I'm Chris Perkins, your host. That's Dave Hyde, your Sentinel columnist. And look, these Dolphins, I mean, come on, dramatic 36-34 victory over the LA Chargers over the weekend. Very impressed with that passing game, right? Tua to Tyreek, what an incredible connection. The defense didn't have a great day, but we think that's going to improve. Look, Chargers coach Brandon Staley, I don't think that that's true at all. I think it was a little bit personal. I think Mike McDaniel was tired of hearing about how he was outcoached by Brandon Staley last season, and I think that he vowed to make this better. Look, we saw good stuff from the Dolphins, right? Tyreek, great. Tua, great. Special teams, decent. Defense, not that great, but they did make some timely plays. We're going to see what happens to the Vic Fangio defense, but the bottom line is the Dolphins are 1-0 heading into Sunday's game against New England Sunday night at Gillette Stadium, and the Dolphins have a good chance of being 2-0. It's a good time to be a Dolphins fan. With that, let's dive in. So, Dave Hyde, let's look at this Tua to Tyreek passing combination because it was electric on Sunday, right? Tua passes for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tyreek, 11 receptions, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. My question to you, Dave, is this the best passing combination in Dolphins history? I know that covers a lot of ground, but what do you think about where they are right now and where they rank in passing combos in franchise history?
Well, I mean, how do you define best? Most productive in their very small window? I mean, no one can argue with, look, 215 yards and what the Dolphins had so many chunk plays in the game. And the mystery to me, and it's been this way since I saw Tyreek Hill practice, and I walked down the steps and there was Rick Spielman, the former Dolphins GM. And I said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Tyreek Hill is best player on the field," and he's been that guy every game that I've seen them play pretty much. And how he gets wide open is a mystery. We talk about Brandon Staley. Look, the thing about last year's game is Brandon Staley was ready to be fired before that. Okay, he's dumb, right?
Right.
And Mike Daniel is Einstein of the offense. That was the mystery of that game. That was the intrigue of it, that all of a sudden Dum solved the genius, right? And so they put in a couple things, you know, half beat of motion before the snap for the receivers, so they can't be pressed, and they got the middle of the field open. But to your question, how Tyreek Hill is getting wide open, I think that's Mike McDaniel. It's Tua's intuitive and accuracy. And on games like Sunday again, it's the defense too. What the heck were the Chargers? I did. How many times did you see two defenders in the same cone with Tyreek? What were they doing? So when I need more time to this right now. If you're going to say a 10, 12 game window, yeah, they're the most productive in Dolphin history. But let's remember, Dan Marino changed the way the NFL plays. Okay, he came in, and all of a sudden, the Dolphins took advantage of new passing game rules, and with his arm and Duper and Clayton, they changed what was going on. So, excuse me. I know how everybody's, and rightfully so, excited about the way Tua and Tyreek played, and no reason you shouldn't be. But let's before we get into history, let's allow some history to happen.
Yeah, you know what? And you know what the funny thing is, Dave, that look, I'm very excited about Tua to Tyreek like everybody else, but they don't even have a playoff appearance yet because Tua missed the playoff game last year. So we haven't seen them in these big clutch moments. Now, we did see them do good stuff last year, but we have not seen them in the December games, in the January games, really hook up and do a lot of magical stuff. Now, I will say this, Hyde. I think Tyreek can get to 2,000 yards. And now he's on a pace for like 3,500, something ridiculous. But listen, consider this. Through 18 games with the Dolphins, he's got 1,926 yards. The 17 last year and the one game this year. So I actually think he can do it. I think that Tyreek is the best wide receiver in the league. And I know that, maybe there's some recency bias there, but I said this last year. I think he's better than Justin Jefferson. And one thing that was noticed and was talked about on social media about Tyreek was that the Dolphins didn't have him in motion as often on Sunday as they did last year. A few times he would line up stationary and then he would go in a little bit of motion, 2 or 3 steps. So that was kind of a little wrinkle that Mike McDaniel had, along with Eric Ezukama lining up in the backfield. He had a couple of, one was he lined up in the backfield, one was an end around. But getting back to Tyreek and this passing combination, Hyde, you just can't cover Tyreek. I mean, you watch this game on Sunday, the replay, and just how fast he gets off the line of scrimmage. He just beats guys the first couple of steps, and then the way Tua puts the ball right on the money. I think this was Tua's best game. I think this was better than Baltimore because Baltimore last year was a fourth quarter assault. This was a consistent Tua putting the ball right on the money so they could get yacked. I don't know if this is the best combination in Dolphins history, but I might be ready to call it the most dangerous, which I know that's semantics and probably a cop-out on my part, but this passing combination is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I again, I'm an old man, Perk.
I know.
You even. And I remember there's fear when Tyreek Hill goes on the field, okay? There's fear because his speed, he's faster than a speeding bullet, okay? And he changed it. It's going to be fascinating to me how Bill Belichick plays him now, okay?
Yes.
Because Bill Belichick's famous for taking away the biggest threat on the other opposing offense. And that means, so are we going to come back here next week? Waddle had a great game. I wouldn't be surprised by that, okay? I'd be surprised if New England could shut down Tyreek Hill, but what I was going to go to, teams had complete fear of Marino's arm, okay?
Yeah.
And so when we get to that point, Tua played an amazing game. It was probably his best game of the year. Now, a lot of that credit goes to the offensive line too, okay? We'll get into that. But, I mean, I had to look at the stat sheet, and it said their defensive tackle had 2 quarterback hits. And I keep meaning to go back through the tape and see where they were because I didn't see him. I didn't notice him during the game getting hit at all, getting even, he ran out of the pocket in not frantically, but in okay, this is where I can find an open spot. Okay. And he made some great throws out of the pocket, but I didn't see him under pressure all day. And so this was you talk about a complete offensive win. This was you saw pretty much everything you wanted to see from the offense on Sunday.
Yeah, you did. So it was a very good job by the Dolphins. And by the way, Hyde, let me sneak this one in because I know we're talking about Tua to Tyreek. What was the Ronaldo Hill factor? And not having him for the Dolphins, taking him away from the Chargers. He was, of course, the Chargers defensive coordinator last year. Vic Fangio comes to the Dolphins this year, and he requests Ronaldo Hill as his right-hand man. Was that a factor, do you think, in any way that Chargers defense didn't fare well against the Dolphins offense?
Yeah, I tend to discount stuff like that. To me, last year was interesting because the Dolphins never adjusted. Not only did the Chargers come out with a package, but for whatever reason, there was no adjustment by the Dolphins. Now this is more the Mike McDaniel play design, offensive design, and Brandon Staley defensive design that NFL fans are used to. Staley, somehow he's a defensive guru or defensive mind, and their defense is awful. It's awful. Okay. And credit Mike McDaniel for bringing that. Again, the surprise last year was it wasn't brought.
Yeah. All right, Hyde, let's move on to segment 2, and we're going to talk about Vic Fangio's defense. Are you worried about the Vic Fangio defense? And the reason that I ask is because I considered Fangio the best offseason acquisition that the Dolphins made, and that's with all due respect to Jalen Ramsey. I almost always favor the player. I went with the coach in this case because I think that his presence could be more widespread. It could be felt by many more people. I know you're laughing at me here, Hyde.
I'm laughing from this. One question is, all of a sudden, do we have the best receiving core in history? And now, should we be worried over one bad game? They didn't play a good game. I mean, that was obvious, right? But the question to me always with Vic Fangio was how long it will take this defense to acclimate. I looked up his first-year stats heading, in the offseason and heading into the first game with Fangio. And his defenses, none of them were great the first year. Okay, there were some like 10th, 12th ranked, but they got progressively better after year 2 or 3. So the question to me now, every team's different. I don't really know what all those teams had talent wise. This team has talent. Right. I'm not worried about Vic Fangio's defense. You want to see it perform, but he has a track record that says he'll figure it all out.
Yeah, well, okay, here's the thing, Hyde. How much time does Vic Fangio have? Because you need to be good this season. You know exactly. You got to be good this season. The run defense got trucked, right? 234 yards on the ground. The pass rush. Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. They were getting some pressure, but we didn't see sacks until that final possession of the game. Pass coverage was pretty good throughout the game, except Xavier Howard had some hiccups there. I'm not worried about the Vic Fangio defense overall. I'm worried about how long it takes to reach its peak and how many games it stays at its peak, because that's what you want from this defense. They can start out, a little bit choppy, but the defense, to me, the big thing is by Thanksgiving, this defense needs to hit its peak. And these last 5-6 regular season games and into the playoffs, you need to know that you can rely on this defense. So overall, I'm not worried about them. To me, it's kind of how long does it take them to hit that peak? You don't have a 1-year window here, Hyde.
Yeah, after the first series, the Twitter world lit up in how they're awful. This guy, what do they do? No one's going to give him till Thanksgiving. He'll be hung in effigy before then if they aren't better. So, look, my questions with the defense are more with, does he feel like he has the right pieces at certain places? David Long, was surprisingly replaced in most packages with Andrew Van Ginkel.
Yep.
Okay. And we know what's going on at cornerback. You had to go out and get Eli Apple, which says that, you didn't make enough moves, even though they did make moves at cornerback. You didn't make enough in the offseason. So we'll see how that all holds up. but look, the vulnerability of a Fangio defense, if you look through the years, is the run defense. He gives up the run to protect against the pass a lot of times. Okay. I mean, if we're just talking on the margins and how teams attack them. So it wasn't a great surprise that Kellen Moore, who last year or 2021, their last meeting, got completely shut down by Fangio's defense when Fangio's in Denver and Kellen Moore was in Dallas. It was his turn to have an answer for what to do. And, Bill Belichick's going to test that too. We're going to see the Patriots started 2 4th-round rookie guards last Sunday.
Paid a price.
Yeah, who's going to be healthy now? But they shouldn't be able to do that to the Dolphins.
Right. Okay, Hyde, let me flip this thing and ask, what did you like about the Vic Fangio defense? And they did show some resilience. They didn't let the game get out of control. I did think that, look, you kept Keenan Allen and Mike Williams under control. Yeah, Austin Eckler got to you. He crushed you. 117 yards rushing, and I can't remember what he had receiving. I've got it right here. Eckler had 47 yards receiving. So, he's got over 150 yards from scrimmage, but I did think the pass defense, and I know Xavier Howard got flagged, I think 3 times, and 2 of them were accepted, I believe. So he was rough, but I thought the pass coverage, I thought that was decent. That was what I liked about the defense. We'll see about the edge rushers, and we'll see this week what they're able to do against Mac Jones and the Patriots. I'm not worried about the defense, but it's got to come along quickly. By Thanksgiving, it's got to hit its peak.
Thanksgiving.
Hit its peak.
Here's a disappointment that they couldn't win their one-on-one battles. Jalen Phillips. Now the Chargers, Rashawn Slater's back there, and Corey Lindsey's at center. They got some. Slater wasn't there last year. Okay.
Right.
But the question becomes: does Fangio need to marry last year, where they blitzed more to his system, which traditionally doesn't rely on the blitz? He doesn't like the blitz traditionally. Do they need to marry that? Because their best plays came when they surprised the Chargers with blitzes. Cater Kohu took Herbert down right near the goal line. And then, of course, the final series where they were blitzing and Herbert was surprised or Kellen Moore was surprised. All the Chargers seemed surprised by it. So the question becomes, moving forward, does Vic Fangio, mesh the two ideas together more, at least at the start, where this defense, whenever you talk to a defense, Xavier Howard or you talk about, well, I'm getting used to playing off players, I'm getting, so there's a transition stage here. But do they need to go back and lean on some of those tendencies of the last few years of the Brian Flores / Josh Boyer defense a little more?
Yeah, and you know what, that's a big thing here, that I think that, it is going to take Fangio a while to figure out what he's got with this defense and what guys can do. And look, we asked Javon Holland yesterday, how different is it playing for Vic Fangio instead of Josh Boyer? And he said it's completely different. He said it's a completely different defense with a completely different person with a philosophy and completely different defensive coordinator. So he said there's going to be an adjustment period. And I agree with that. But that's why I say I give them until Thanksgiving. I know social media world is different, Hyde, but but we've got to be realistic here. So this defense is not going to reach its peak in 2 weeks. Fangio has got to figure out what he's got. But again, they don't have a 1-year grace period here. The clock is ticking. Teron Armstead's clock is ticking. And the other guys who are injury risk, their clock is constantly ticking. The financial salary cap clock on this franchise is ticking. So Fangio has got to get this thing worked out. And I shouldn't put it all on Fangio. The players, you can't get trucked like that against the run. Christian Wilkins talked about it, and it starts with him, and he's an excellent run defender. I've got to go back and see what happened with him. So it's on the players, but this is Fangio's defense. I'm not worried, but he's got to – again, if you aren't playing at your peak by Thanksgiving, going into that stretch where you have 4 of your final 5 games at home, a time where you can win the division or secure your wild card, then what are you doing here? So I'm not worried, but they do need to peak by Thanksgiving and play like 7 or 8 games at their peak.
Do you believe Mike McDaniel when he said we're going to need to win some games 10-3? In his head, yes. Mike McDaniel's thinking, there's no way I'm only going to score 10 points in a game. It'll never happen, right?
I actually do think that's well. He said there will be one game, and I do think there will be one game that they had a few games like that last year. So I do think there will be
a lot of games where the defense won them over the last couple of years. Yes, absolutely. So I don't doubt it. My only question was Mike McDaniel thinks 10 points. No one's going to hold us to 10 points.
Yeah. He had to be laughing himself when he said that. Yeah, I agree. All right, we will migrate to segment 3, Hyde. But before we do, let me remind folks, we're available. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you're following us right now on Slack, definitely feel free to Slack us some questions here because, we want to know what's on your mind. Hyde, the offensive line. Is it finally fixed? We saw. I know.
You want conclusive results after 1 week to history? And no, I mean, is it solved? I mean, they played a great game, right? I mean, if you talk number one surprise of the game is the tackles kept the Chargers pass rushers completely off Tua. Kendall Lamb was great. Now, Kendall Lamb was an upgrade from what they had last year, but I'm not sure anybody thought this was coming where he basically shuts down Joey Bosa, right? Or
Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack, yeah, I guess. And Khalil Mack isn't the Khalil Mack who he used to be. But between him on one side and Austin Jackson with Joey Bosa on the other side, it was as good a performance as you could have expected with Teron Armstead in there. Now, you're going to want Teron Armstead.
Yep.
Do you get him? Look, it was a week-to-week question last year. It's going to be a week-to-week question this year. And I'm sure some other teams will come with less vanilla packages of saying our defensive ends will win one-on-one. So then we'll see what happens. But what a performance by the line.
Yeah, an absolutely strong performance by that O-line. Connor Williams at center. They overcame the center quarterback snap exchanges. Rob Hunt at right guard and Isaiah Wynn at left guard. You had 3 question marks there, Hyde. At left tackle with Kendall Lamb, right tackle with Austin Jackson, and left guard with Isaiah Wynn. And for 1 week, all of those questions had positive answers. So
Perk, about the offense. Their first series, they fumbled at the 3 on a center,
Yep.
Then Tua threw another interception into the end zone.
Right, red zone.
Their scoring doesn't even tell the full story of how effective the offense was. They just ran over pretty much all game. They ran over San Diego, and that's everybody. We touched on it all. Everybody but the running backs.
And we're going to get into that later. Where me in the run game, Hyde. I'm still stuck in 1978 and Earl Campbell. But look, getting back to this offensive line. So let's overreact here, Hyde, because it's week 1, or the season opener's just concluded. It's time to overreact and jump to conclusions about what we saw in one game. Should Chris Grier get more credit for building this offensive line this season when I don't think he should. I'm going to ruin it right now, but he did bring in some offensive tackle competition, right? Cedric Ogbuehi, Isaiah Wynn. He brought in Dan Feeney at center and guard. Now, Ogbuehi is not here any longer. Dan Feeney is not here any longer. He was traded to Chicago. But did Chris Grier do a good enough job? They hired Butch Beard. as the offensive line coach. So some changes were made, and we saw a positive result yesterday, a very positive result. Like it's not like Tua took 7 hits and only 1 sack. Like it was pretty much a clean sheet. So should more credit be given? We like to tear down Chris Grier. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. Should more credit be given? I still don't think he brought in sufficient competition. Especially at right tackle for Austin Jackson's starting caliber competition. We'll see if Kendall Lamb is a good enough backup. I think he is. I think he's along the lines of Steele from last year. So I think that they've done okay, but I'm not giving flowers right now. I will tip my cap. I'm not giving flowers. Does Grier deserve more credit? Does Butch Beard deserve more credit? What can you draw from what we saw Sunday?
Well, let's start at every team. Look at the AFC East. None of the 4 teams have a really good offensive line.
Yep.
I mean, Buffalo's okay. The Jets are awful. I mean, you saw that last night. The Patriots are, every story out of New England all camp was the offensive line's horrible. So start with, it's harder to build an offensive line than we think when you look around the league. Chris he had one job on the offensive line really this offseason to me, and that is make sure your backup tackles are good enough. And yeah. Kendall Lamb looked good enough in training camp. He looked good enough in preseason. He looked good enough in game 1. So, yeah, sure, he gets credit for that because he got ripped for it last year, and everybody's waiting to rip him again this year. So when it holds up like that, absolutely. Everybody gets credit. As you said, the offensive line coach, which is like there's 6 and 5 years. Maybe they finally have an answer there. But can we go down the road a little of this season before we start, bringing FTD flowers to everybody?
No, Hyde. No.
Okay.
No. We're making final decisions right now. Hey, all right. Hey, okay, Dave, 2 more offensive line things. We touched on both of these. Connor Williams and the snapping issues. Now, I don't know. As I recall, there were 3 bad snaps, 2 under center, 1 in the shotgun. I asked Connor Williams after the game, and Connor Williams is a quality guy, a stand-up guy. I asked him, and he said, it's all on me. He said pregame, first opening night jitters, and all 3 of them are my fault. And I said, you know what? That's admirable because there was one where Tua just dropped it in the shotgun. And Connor said, no, it's all on me. We'll get it worked out. We've seen these center issues mostly in preseason. Last year, regular season was okay. You feel good about Connor Williams? I do. Do you?
There's room enough to say, look, he's a quality center. We saw that last year. Right. And they better get the snap issues worked out. Yep. Because, it was fortunate none of them really cost, none of them cost the game. Right. Whereas, some Sundays that will cost you. A mistake like that will cost you a game, yep. Much less 3 mistakes like that. So, again, look, he's a quality center, but this is an issue you better get solved.
Right. And then over to Teron Armstead. How many starts does he make? How many does he need to make?
What's the over-under? 10 to me is the over-under. How many does he need to make? Look, this is the fundamental flaw, question, concern of the Dolphins, and we've said it. And you talk about Chris Grier, and I've asked them, they don't pay any attention to injury history in signing players. They no, we don't, people get hurt. Well, yeah, but people who get hurt every year get hurt again every year, right? I mean, so, that it's mystifying to me, but it's a very fragile at the top roster, and right. You lose a few of those players. Look, even Jalen Ramsey, that was bad luck. You look right. At he has played pretty much every game. I think he's missed 3 or 4 games in 7 years. But you sign a guy with that much wear and tear on him, there's bigger danger of something happening to him. That's why football loves young guys, why the draft matters so much. Yeah. So Teron Armstead, over under 10 games, and the over under is we're going to be asking on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, is he playing as 17 games, and then how many playoff games there are, right? Every week it'll be a question.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's the bottom line with Tehran. You've got to make all the starts in December and January and on. And I don't know about the rest of it, but that's the crucial time to me. With this entire team, it's pretty much the same team as last year, pretty much. Jalen Ramsey should be out there, but he's not. Maybe he will be by Thanksgiving. But yeah, get this thing all figured out by Thanksgiving and make that great December, January run. And to me, that's what this season is all about for this Dolphins team. Hyde, let's go to our predictions here. Are the Dolphins going to open the season 2-0? What is your pick? Now, look, in this segment, we're also going to get into the Aaron Rodgers thing because we haven't talked about it yet. So, the division was already there for the Dolphins. I know Buffalo is the big dog, and the Jets had Aaron Rodgers until last night. But the division was always there for the Dolphins. They were considered a contender. How do you view their shot in the division in light of Aaron Rodgers being gone for, we expect, an extended period, maybe the entire season?
What a weekend for the Dolphins. I mean, they have the fun game of the week.
Right.
As any game as you can have in against the Chargers and a win. Then Monday night, Buffalo loses.
Yep.
And the Chargers or the Jets lose too. I don't care if they lost.
Right.
They lose Aaron Rodgers. And it's like, here, you guys take the division. The door swung wide open for the Dolphins. I thought, we'll see what Buffalo is. If Josh Allen, I thought last year was a outlier for him, but maybe that's who he's become, where he's just loose with the ball and he's running into people, trying like a fullback. So and the Jets are the team last year right now when they're 7-9. And if Zach Wilson is a quarterback, so we'll see. Do they go out and get a quarterback? That'll be interesting.
I think the Jets have to go get a quarterback, right? I mean, who do they get? Who do they get right now? The Rams are still in it, or you'd say go get Matthew Stafford, right? The Colt McCoy's out there. He's an upgrade, but he's Jameis Winston. I mean, Colin Kaepernick, Carson Wentz. Do you call the Dolphins and try to get Mike White back? I mean, there's all kinds of.
Do you unretire Tom Brady?
I know. Look, listen to this. I know. But
it's disappointing. Isn't it disappointing? Aaron Rodgers got hurt 4 plays in.
Right.
So it would have been great theater, a great drama of watching. Instead, they were just the Jets again, right?
Could you imagine Tom Brady in a Jets uniform going to Gillette Stadium weeks after they honored him? Could you imagine?
That'd be true. Make it happen, Perk. Make it happen.
No, that would be incredible. But look, I'll say this for the Dolphins, that there could be a little better chance today from the Buffalo standpoint. From the Jets. The Jets have fallen off as a significant threat for the Dolphins. They're still a threat, but Josh Allen is who Josh Allen is. I mean, this is what the guy does. He's a turnover machine. He keeps both teams in the game at the same time. He's an incredible talent, and he's come a long way since he's joined the league. But he's a turnover risk, and he does have that mentality of I'm going to run you down, and it's kind of like, look, Josh, they need you, but we saw that last night. You don't want to take anything away from him, his aggressiveness or his attitude, his zest and zeal for the game, but you got to make this guy smarter, Hyde. You got to make him smarter somehow.
Yeah, my concern, look, Josh Allen is great, and if he ever gets that, again, I was shocked last night, but if I'm the Bills, my concern is up the middle on defense. They're old at safety, both safeties. They tried to get rid of both of them. Yep. They lost their middle linebacker.
Right.
Where the Dolphins love to attack, and so in the middle of the field. So, I just give the Dolphins the edge right now in talent and design and where they are in their timetable, which is win now this year, because who knows what's going to happen next year. Whereas it just feels like the window started to close on Buffalo.
Oh,
and
100%.
We'll see 1 week, but we'll see.
Right. Well, no, I think this is the year for Buffalo. I think the window closes after this year, but we'll see. But okay, so that's AFC East talk. Let's talk about Dolphins Patriots, and boy, we didn't even mention the Patriots there in AFC East talk. The Dolphins 0-3 on the road last year against AFC East opponents, but it's a new year and a new Dolphins team. We know the Patriots won't have an answer for Tyreek Hill. The defense needs to show up. And look, we know that the Patriots have Matthew Judon to rush the passer, right? He's a very dangerous pass rusher. They added Ezekiel Elliott. They've got Ramondre Stevenson there to run the ball. Maybe Mike Gesicki is fired up. Maybe he wants a revenge game. But I'm seeing Dolphins here, and I would be – I don't want to say surprised if the Dolphins lost, but – yeah, I will say that. I'm going Dolphins 27-20. I think it'll be a fairly close score, but I think the Dolphins will be fairly comfortable throughout this entire game. I think they're.
You know, the Patriots really outplayed Philadelphia on Sunday.
They did. They did.
The defense held a very good Philadelphia offense to 13 points.
Yep.
Okay, and
late in the game they were doing well.
Or excuse me, that's 17 points. And other than a couple turnovers, the offense, Mac Jones threw the shocking, they threw 54 times, and they really didn't throw it far because it's a pop gun offense. There's not a lot of talent. So I think I'm with you that the Dolphins win. I'll say 21-17. But, the Patriots aren't going to to me, they're not a elite contender like the Dolphins and Bills for the AFCs, but they could ruin somebody's season. They're good enough to do that.
Yep, and that to me is one of the big things that you have to watch with these divisional road games, and especially with the Patriots is that, I mean, look at Buffalo last night. I mean, that game is right there for you to win, and you lose a divisional road game. And I think that in this division, the teams are good enough that even the Jets right now without Aaron Rodgers, they do have a defense, and they do have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook and Garrett Wilson. I mean, they've got enough weapons to make life miserable for you up there at MetLife. And I think that it's the same deal with the Patriots at Gillette. But, yeah, I am going to go with the Dolphins. And I think they're 2-0 and sitting on top of the division at the end of the week, Hyde.
Yeah,
so
why not? Everybody else in South Florida is winning, and it's good in 2023. You go right down the list.
Maybe the Marlins make it.
You went up the Hurricanes, Coco Golf, Inter Miami, even without Messi. We're a town of winners right now.
That's it, baby. That's it. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. So, all right, Hyde, we're gonna play a game here that we call Gold or Pyrite, and Pyrite is fool's gold. So, are these things real or are these things fake that we saw in the opener? We're gonna start off with this one that might be a layup. Tua is the best quarterback in the AFC East. Is that gold or Pyrite?
No, I can't give it over what Josh Allen has done in his career. Now, if you're saying week one, and I'm leery of Josh Allen because of last year, and he didn't solve anything in week one. Yes, I'm leery, but no, I mean, you need more from Tua and less from Allen if that's going to happen right now. But again, Tua played a remarkable game on Sunday.
He did, and the gap is closing. But I agree with you, and we've got to see Tua stay healthy and able to do this. When Tua's healthy, the dude is money. But the health is the big thing, and Josh Allen has done it longer. Josh Allen has won playoff games. He hasn't lived up to, I guess, really the renewed standard that he set for himself, because when he came into the league, the standard for him wasn't that high. He was wildly inaccurate. But he set a new standard for himself, and pretty much that standard is getting to a Super Bowl. So
see, I'll say two things for Tua. One, you said health. That's obviously the other thing is that he can't get hit. He's got to be protected well. Josh Allen can take hits and fight them off and move. Tua has nice feet in the pocket. He can move around, but you got to protect him.
Yeah, you do. All right, Hyde, next one, gold or pyrite? Dolphins only had 6 penalties for 38 yards, no delay of game penalties. Do you believe in that, gold or pyrite?
No, I believe in it. I maybe because I want to believe in it after watching last season where they tied for the most in penalties in the league and were the most penalized pre-snap team. So, yeah, I believe they worked on that. You heard Mike McDaniel talk about that. So no reason not to believe it after game 1, but like everything else, you need to see more.
Yeah, see, I'm going pyrite on this one because I saw this team during training camp and preseason, and now here this was the best performance and very timely and the one that matters, right? I mean, preseason and training camp don't really count, so this was the one that matters. But from what I saw last year and from what I saw leading up to Sunday, I need to see a little bit more. But I will say this, you know, the penalties and the when I say no delay of game, that's getting that play from the booth down to Tua, which was an issue last year, and they have worked very hard on that, and they had that corrected. We didn't even see a threat of a delay of game, no timeouts with 2 seconds on the play clock or anything like that. So positive signs, but I got to see more, Hyde. I've got to see more. Our next one here is one that you alluded to earlier, David Long. He played 17 snaps. Andrew Van Ginkel played 51. Now, David Long is the linebacker, the inside linebacker they got from Tennessee. He had hamstring issues, missed 6 games each of the last 2 years. But on Sunday, it was that the guy was just getting blocked. Now, I don't know if this is a specific matchup thing with Van Ginkel playing 51 snaps and Long playing 17. Maybe that's what the Chargers offense required them to do. But, man, do you believe in David Long? Is he gold or pyrite? Hi.
Well, the question is, does Vic Fangio believe he's a 3-down linebacker? Because they seem to be taking him out. And I meant to break this down when I rewatched the game. I think Van Ginkel was in on base defense and Long was out, or vice versa. But there were specific packages where Long was in there, and it wasn't nearly as much as Van Ginkel was in there. So the question is, do they see him as because I thought, okay, they got a guy with speed, tackler, and he covers, he's a good coverage guy. So they had a 3-down linebacker. It was why you sign a free agent like that. But Vic Fangio must not see that.
Yeah, and Fangio said that he's got to see a little bit more out of David Long. So I think that Long is kind of in that Cam Smith category, the rookie 2nd-round pick cornerback from South Carolina, where when you bring up Cam Smith, Fangio talks about trust, and obviously it's not there yet. By the way, let me insert one real quick here, Hyde. Gold or pyrite, the draft. Cam Smith, the 2nd-round pick, does not play from scrimmage. He only played special teams. 3rd-round pick, Devon Achane, is inactive. Now, he was still recovering from a shoulder injury that he sustained in training camp, but he wasn't on the injury report. And then your other 2, Julian Hill, the 6th-round pick, the tight end from Stanford that you're converting, is on the team, but he did not play. Or no, I'm sorry. Julian Hill is the undrafted free agent. I'm sorry. Elijah Higgins is who I'm talking about, the 6th-round pick from Stanford. He didn't make the team. And then Ryan Hayes, the 7th-round pick. So you combine this draft with last year's draft also with Channing Tindall and Cam Good. Do these last 2 drafts even matter? Because we know the clock is ticking on the Dolphins. In the Super Bowl window, I don't think they matter. Now, when you reset this team, when and if, that's when it matters. But do you believe in these draft picks, especially the 2023 draft picks?
Well, let's 2023 game 1.
Right.
I'm not touching anything, okay? But 2022, now you drafted a Tindall to come in and be a linebacker this year, right? And he's not, okay? And you talk about the Dolphins' big architecture. The big architecture was we're going to collect draft picks for 2 years.
Right.
And we're going to use a ton of draft, get high ones. Now we're going to screw draft picks and we're going to spend all that money we save and then we're going to have a little window to win. Okay.
Right.
And what they're doing, they had no draft capital the last 2 drafts because they spent it all in trades and everything. It's like the national deficit. They're building up a deficit now where the 2 draft classes you look at and you say, that's nothing. They got nothing. Okay. And now people want to trade another draft basically for to Indianapolis to get the running back, right? You're getting a big national deficit coming here, which is it's fun now, but we'll see what happens if you go down that road completely.
Yeah. By the way, Eric Ezukam, a positive sign on Sunday from last year's draft. But we'll see. Hyde, one thing that was really very low key, Jason Sanders. He misses that extra point. That was actually not low-key. That was high profile to keep it 36-34. Should have been 37-34. But then he snuck in that 45-yard field goal. And so are you concerned about Jason Sanders?
Yes.
Yeah.
The only people happy about that missed field goal were the bettors. Because the 3-point spread, that meant the Chargers can and had the Dolphins, because the Chargers will go for the field goal. Even if they win, it'll be 1. I win the bet. So, but yes, you're concerned over kicks like that. Yes.
Yeah, I am too. Jason Sanders is a really good guy, but based on what we saw last year, and last year it was really mostly the 50 pluses. But boy, you'd like to see just perfection out of the guy. He did get him to the playoffs with that 50-yard field goal against the Jets with 18 seconds left, but. Yeah, just you almost needed to see perfection in game 1 from Jason Sanders, and we didn't see it. So I'm gonna overreact and go with Pyrite that's kind of fool's gold at this point. Here's one, Hyde. The tight end Durham Smythe. He had 7 targets, including 1 in the end zone. That was an incomplete pass. The one Derwin James broke up. But that was second most behind Tyreek Hill, who had 15 targets, and it was 2 more targets than Jalen Waddle had. So the concern that I really have about not having a receiving tight end, has that been eased in your mind? Is this gold or pyrite with Durham Smythe and the 7 targets?
Look, he had 7 targets. How many catches did he have?
I believe 3. He had
3 catches.
4 for 78 yards. I'm sorry. 3 for 44 yards. 3 for 44 yards.
3 catches. So 3 of 7 is not a good percentage. Yep. So yes, it is a concern. And to me, look, we know Mike Gesicki didn't fit in this offense. Okay, if they want to get rid of him, that's fine. Who's your red zone target? Tyreek Hill was your second most targeted guy in the red zone last year for obvious reasons, and he caught another one, a perfect pass from 2 to win the game. But who do you have beyond that? And that's got to shake itself out here coming up.
Right. I agree. That's probably right. And I agree mostly because of that red zone target issue. All right. 2 more here, Hyde. Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, 20 runs on Sunday. Last season, they were 31st in the NFL, and they averaged 22.9 per game. So about 3 fewer. Good offensive performance on Sunday. Nobody's going to say that, but a big imbalance, right? Tua had 45 passing attempts. You only run it 20 times. The Mike McDaniel claim about running the ball more, gold or pyrite?
Well, game 1 is pyrite. He did run the ball more, and that can't make Vic Fangio too happy, meaning his defense is going to be. And you look, game management issues, like right before half, they threw the ball down, and that got they got field goal. The Chargers had a chance to go back down. And so, if you manage the game a little differently, maybe you can suck the clock out with running the ball. So, yes, it is an issue to watch. On the other hand, Chargers couldn't stop the passing game. So I get why you went to it that game. The question is, it's like a siren's call luring you in some games, and you keep doing it and doing. You look back as last year's Chargers game, you say, oh, we should have run the ball more. You got to be better at maybe reading games.
And that's my big thing with Mike McDaniel, Hyde, is that I fully understand why you're going to Tyreek 15 times. And I fully understand that when you run the ball or throw it to Durham Smythe, after that play, you're probably like, boy, we blew an opportunity to go to Tyreek. like he was open. He could have got us. So you could give the ball to Tyreek every time, and every time you don't, you could legitimately kick yourself for not going to Tyreek. I get that, but there's got to be a balance, or else you're going to be in that situation of last year where you're one-dimensional, you're predictable, and when you play those good teams at the end of the year, it's going to bite you in the butt. So, yeah, I'm very concerned about that. Final one, Hyde. Dolphins are atop the AFC East. Is that gold or pyrite? Will it last? I should say this. At the end?
Yes.
Will it last?
They are the best team in the AFC. I wrote that, somewhere in August. Yep. When you look at their roster, they have the best roster. They have guys in their prime, ready to go. Love the offense. I thought, like you said, to me, Vic Fangio coming over here will bear fruit. It didn't in game one. Relax, everybody. So, yes, it is legitimate that they're atop the AFC East.
Yeah, it's legit. That's gold. Are they going to win the division? I don't know. Yeah, but
yeah, they will win the division.
All right, there we go. There we go from Dave. There we go, baby. I like it. Yeah, Buffalo does concern me. The Dolphins injury situation and the run play calling and the penalties. I've got to see some of those things from last year corrected. But if they get those corrected, and if you go into December with Teron Armstead reasonably healthy and Jalen Ramsey at 75%, the division is probably yours. It's probably yours for the Dolphins, but let's see how things play out there.
The season can be wrecked by, as we all know, by the fragility of the roster.
Right.
Okay. Everybody talks, it's bad luck to get injuries. No, the Dolphins, it wouldn't be bad luck to get injuries. That would be the normal course. They need good luck not to get injured, really, is what has to happen.
Right. But look, best roster in the AFC East. We agree on that. And look, I think Mike McDaniel has grown as a coach, and you've added Vic Fangio. So it's gold that they're on top of the division. And the only reason I say that right now they're not the best team is because of Buffalo's history. They haven't gotten to a Super Bowl, but they've done better than these other AFC East teams. So that's why I'm going with them. All right, Hyde, we did it again, baby. Another Dolphins deep dive. Thanks to everybody for watching. We will join you next week, Tuesday, sunsentinel.com at noon. I'm Perk. That's Dave Hyde. We'll see you next week.